All right. Good evening, everyone. Again, welcome back to our Global Teachers Training Program here at International Internship University. We're on Module 2, and that is what are the ingredients really of a successful teacher, of a good, so-called good teacher? How do we develop the very best and brightest teachers that are empowered to really see a success not only in their careers, but in the classroom and the students that they're assigned to? I am Professor Dr. Elisa Schultz-White, also here, part of the team IIU, as recently appointed co-founder USA and also accreditation director and board member. So we are glad that you joined us, whether you're here live in the room or you're watching the recording. As an educator, as an education administrator, whether it be from pre-K all the way to university, your role is one of the most significant of those in the world. I said the most significant in the world, because we do mold the minds and we make decisions that mold the minds and the leaders of tomorrow. So I am one myself. My initial career in life was started off as a teacher, and then also I believe that my purpose in life is that of a teacher. I just demonstrated in different ways in business and in just my professional career as a trainer, speaker, coach, and also a professor and instructor. So yesterday we talked about 10 top keys for being a successful teacher. Very quickly, I'll just do a quick recap. And we said, number one, good thing to have is a sense of humor, as it relieves tension in the classroom and it allows for a space of joy to make yourself a happier person, which in terms transcend in the roles you play, not only in the classroom, but in life. The next one is to maintain a growth mindset, a positive attitude. The next one is to always keep high hopes, high expectations, not just for yourself, but for your students as well and your families you serve. The next one is to demonstrate consistency. Consistency is how we earn our students' trust. It's how we earn the parents' trust that we work with. Then the next thing is to remain flexible. Yes, including flexible in body, but most so in your mindset and how you maneuver in your day-to-day activities. Then the other one is to always practice fairness by treating everyone with equality in every situation, in the same situation, no matter what. You are consistent and fair. We talked about how fairness sometimes can be confused with consistency, and that being a consistent teacher is the same person from day to day. But being a fair teacher is treating your students equally in the same situation. The next one is to be respectful. We want to be respectful in our contact communication with everyone, including our social media and in our communities. The other one is to know how to create partnerships with the families that you serve. That is a key ingredient in what we do. I believe the teacher who understands how to communicate and how to develop and build relationships is one of the most empowered and successful teachers, because you're gaining ammunition for getting into the ring of that classroom and really creating a program or an experience for your students that really will transcend and relate to them as individuals. The next one is continue to further your own education. The other one is to be organized. Teachers, I think most of us are naturally organized, but in my time, I have met some teachers who it was like pulling teeth and being in the dentist's office as an administrator to get them to be organized. But over a long process of trying, once they got into it a little bit, they became addicted to the process of keeping themselves organized. And so because we talked about it being important for teachers to continue to get education, to continue developing themselves professionally, I believe this is why here at IIU, we determined that one of the things we wanted to share with you in this entire training program is determining high quality professional development. And professional development, I believe, is just as important as everything else that we shared with you in the first section of this module, because we are, as teachers, we cannot stay in the same space mentally, emotionally, academically, and be able to keep up with serving students that come from different year to year, which if you've been in the system, you will know that the needs and desires and the way how our students think and how they are is different from how they were a year ago. Even we've come through and we're in, still in the middle of the global pandemic, shifting with different variants of COVID, and sometimes quarantine is important and we had to adapt. So how do we determine what professional development is good for us and what is high quality? Because even if you're in the room here or you're listening to watching the recording, you as a teacher, you get to select a certain number of what we call in the USA continuing education credits, the CEUs, that you get to provide for certification and say, hey, I am continuing my education. You need so many hours you're required to have. If you are an administrator, or again, from pre-K all the way up, you are responsible. You're sitting at the table where the decision is being made about what professional development should be offered to your staff. So we're going to dive into that a little bit, not a little bit, actually pretty good here. And so there's the concept of the 5 W's of professional development for educators. There's so much that I could bring to you in this particular section, but I have this formula that I use. I call it the KISS formula, and it's keep it simple, stupid. And so I believe as an educator, it's always been my go-to to keep it simple and stupid. That way, anyone and everyone can grasp the concept. So I want to talk to you about those 5 W's of professional development. Let me just get my screen here. Okay, it's fucking me. And so that first W is for who. To consider who are the teachers that are being served in this professional development session. Who is included in the planning and the execution and the follow-up of that professional development. Also, does the planners have a reality and a grasp of what is really happening in classrooms? Because so often we end up in a situation where, I'm going to step back here, where people are putting together a professional development session that is just not even applicable to the teachers that are in the room. So let's consider what professional development is not. For example, dissemination of information that could have just been an email, like straight up. You get called into professional development. It's on your calendar. You get in a room, principal, everybody's in there, and the information that was given is, look, we could have just had an email for this one. Then there's that one-time drive-bys of disconnected workshops where you're sitting in that workshop and it's like the same thing from last year. I've seen in those where it's like, oh, let's talk about ages and stages. Let's talk about good nutrition for students. Like, great, I don't prepare the meals. I do the lesson plans. I work with the kids. Can you just train the kitchen staff or the cooks and the chefs on the nutrition? Because yes, I'm aware I did an entire degree in education. This doesn't help me. This doesn't help me talk about it. So that's exactly one of the things that professional development should not be. Retelling what's already known. Again, like I said, we did this last year. We don't want to go to professional development that it's the same thing every year. You're going over the same content and material because we are required to have this annual workshop or training, right? Some of them are required. Like in the US, we have first aid CPR. We have to do that every year, every couple of years right now in the state of Arizona. So we're always taking the same class. We get that. It's safety because most of us forget CPR anyway. So a refresher is always good. But we're talking about those subject matter things that we studied in our degree and we've been doing it over and over again. It's not. If you're here as an administrator and you plan professional development, avoid these particular things, because I bet if you ask your staff, they'll tell you, we don't want that. But some people they're not going to talk. They talk behind our backs as administrators, right? The disconnected from the classroom reality type scene that most of the people are putting on the show, they're not even aware about the behaviors and attitudes that we get from even 7, 8, and sometimes teenagers in our classrooms. So they're disconnected, but they're the ones putting together this entire professional development program. And then by all means, they're delivered in a debt by PowerPoint manner. Of course, we're in a virtual environment, we're using PowerPoint, but I really, if you were in a room with me, and still even here on Zoom, I try to make my presentations and professional development interactive. I want to hear from you. I want to have conversation. Many times I put together a workshop or a presentation that completely shifts and goes to another level because of the interactive opportunities that as a trainer and presenter I've created for the people that are in the room that are actually learning that this is for. So as an educator or an administrator that's responsible for putting together professional development, you wanted to keep those things in mind because this kind of professional development is totally detrimental and it devalues the time of the professionals who already have a lot on their plates. Come on, teachers have a lot to do and not enough time. We all know of that teacher, or you might be one yourself, because I certainly was, the one who brought home, who was going to the store, to the hardware store to get scraps of wood to create an experience in my classroom. Or I was going to the neighborhood store to ask for big brown paper bags so I can create a project and an experience with the kids. So we're always working. Can you please mute us? I can mute you. There we go. Yes, so it's important that we respect the time. When professionals feel like we understand when teachers feel like we understand what they're experiencing and the value of their time, they tend to have a better buy-in into the process with us in providing high quality services to our students. So without a real impact, they start to question, why should they invest with you, right? And yet it's completely possible to develop and deliver quality professional development for teachers and educators. It's as straightforward as putting intentionality behind, like I said, the 5 W's, the who's. So at the end of that, are the planners up to date on what specific group of teachers need? When you think about it, sometimes it's not a one size fit all. I've seen programs or districts, because we call them districts here, where it is an elementary school from kindergarten all the way to 5th grade, and they bring all those teachers together and give them the same professional development. No, 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 no. Kindergarten teachers need a totally different set of professional development trainings and workshops than they do in the 5th grade. It's different. So we don't want to bulk them up, and we want to be respectful and align what they need with their needs. How do we do that though? How do we determine the who? The who is very simple. We ask the people that we serve. In US politics, they talk a lot about grassroots, and then in the education system, they talk about the field. The field is considered a classroom. I don't really subscribe to it, but I understand why. That's where everything is happening. So if you're an administrator, you need to talk to the teachers, get data from them about what they need. What are their experiences? What are they experiencing in the classroom? What do they perceive that their students are experiencing in the classroom? And ask them, how can we provide a quality set of support systems, which includes professional development for you? The next W is the what. Very straightforward, right? The what. What are you going to provide? What learning experiences will occur in this professional development experience? Is it going to be a workshop style? Because these things are very different For example, with me, I wear coach, mentor, speaker, trainer. As a keynote speaker, my delivery and style is totally different from when I sit here in this chair and I'm coming in as a trainer. It's also different from when I'm operating in the role of a professor on a college campus or with students that are in higher level education. Then the hat is totally different when it comes into a coaching role. A coach facilitates what's already within the person that they're coaching or the group that they're coaching, right? A mentor uses their own life and experience to deliver training, whether in a formal and informal way, to the group or individuals that they're mentoring. So as a coordinator and planner of a professional development, you have to understand what learning experiences you want to happen with the group of teachers that you're doing this professional development with. Is it a workshop? Is it coaching? Is it classroom type observation? Are you going to go in the classroom and observe them? Are there videos? Is there a school visit involved? Is there some research involved? Yes, professional development can take all those turns, and sometimes as administrators, we don't know. As teachers, we don't know, but we do know what we don't want, but we don't know what we want. So we have to consider this too as teachers as well. What dialogues might be helpful for introducing and reflecting on the experience? So now you've got the thing, you've decided it's going to be a workshop. We want to have a space where we reflect with the teachers that we're training, or as a teacher, if you're selecting a professional development to be part of, you want to say, is there a reflective process? Do I get to say that this is what worked for me? Am I part of the conversation? Then thirdly, when it comes to the what supports my teachers' need for classroom implementation? My goodness, as a teacher, I was so aggravated watching my company, because we had a lot of funding, not the one I'm in, the previous, that would bring some of the most impactful trainers and speakers in the early childhood education space. And then as teachers, we sat there, had a good power up, motivating hands-on workshop sessions, sometimes for an entire week in a resort in a beautiful city. And it was a lot of money. But then nobody from our administration said, here's how you're going to make that look for our program. So the implementation in the classroom piece of professional development, I bet if I have educators on here with me, you would agree that is the most important. I'd rather someone give me 5 sentences and then they tell me how to make those 5 sentences a reality in my classroom than them give me 5 beautiful days at Disney Resort and then powerful speakers from all over the world, world-renowned early childhood educators or educators coming in and speaking and training. And then I'm like, oh, great information. What do I do with this? The question is, what does this all look like inside my everyday classroom, right? And then fourthly, on the what is, I found that planning professional development learning experience as a systematic process allows time to implement, rework, revise, and adapt practices so that the professional development works for the teacher rather than the teachers working for the professional development. See, so it has to become something that is applicable in the classroom, or all bets are off on the effectiveness of that professional development session and process. The next W, number 3, is the when. When will larger or smaller goals be achieved that were discussed, trained, and presented in the professional development that is being planned or executed? When will assessments, surveys, or reflections be used to measure the success of the professional development? See, a lot of institutions, educational institutions, schools, programs, districts will put on, again, those really great professional development with great people. But the issue is, many times we pass out a survey, or whether it's on paper or digital, We pass out that survey asking for feedback, and then the story ends right there. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. We want to have a good system for good, deep, reflective time. And so a lot of times, for me, what I've seen work best was that it was a conversation immediately after. In the part of the session was the conversation for assessment and verbal reflection on the spot with the teachers that are being trained. And then thirdly, on the when, sorry, I skipped a little bit there, is implementation takes time and it requires a collective growth mindset. We go back to my one favorite thing is, if you look at my profile, I am a certified master mindset coach. And everything I believe starts with the mindset, which means I like to say, how is your mind set up? So it's not only the teacher that needs the growth mindset, it's a collective group of individuals that are putting together the professional development that has a growth mindset as a collective, right? And number 4, on the when, sharing challenges, celebrating success, and making implementation visible are all just as important to the process of the professional development event itself. So there's where you get together with the teachers, the planners, and sometimes even the trainers if possible. What were the challenges we experienced in this professional development, you ask? And here's what we did really well. We talked about the 10 success tips. And one of the things as a teacher, even as just a human, I love to do is to celebrate. A growth mindset includes celebrating the small accomplishments, the large ones, the in-between ones, and being aware exactly of what your challenges are and how you're going to decisively come up to make a better plan for it. And the 4th W is, of course, where. So, where are the best spaces to encourage collaboration among the professional development participants, which in this case, we're talking about educators, or facilitate other learning goals? Where? Because environment, as we all know as educators, is a very key ingredient to the success of the learning process, right? So even as we are teachers ourselves and we strive to create a learning environment in classroom that's cohesive, fun, growth-oriented, nurturing to our students, we need the same grace too as educators when it comes to us being taught and trained, right? Number 2, if the professional development involves collaboration, then it is necessary to be intentional about developing a location and configuration to facilitate the goal. Again, nothing we do in the education system over the last few years, we've been talking a lot about intentional teaching, a teacher being intentional with playground activities, a teacher being intentional with how children transition from one activity, one class to the next. Intentional. I personally talk and preach on every stage about being intentional with your life. Why on earth would we not be intentional about everything concerning a professional development for educators? It is highly encouraged there as well. Number 3, does the professional development involve the whole staff? Take place in a small environment, purposeful groups organized around the same grade level, subject matter, or focus area? Remember I said earlier that we just can't willy-nilly bring all the pre-K teachers and the kindergarten teachers all the way up to 5th grade, and sometimes, depending on what kind of school, we bring all the teachers together and be like, oh, come in here, let's teach you this. We can't do that. We have to be, again, intentional with looking at how are we going to do it? What is the purpose of the goal of this professional development? What do we want to achieve? Based on understanding that why. Again, I talk a lot about purpose. If you follow me on other platforms, it's a big part of my global message. Personal global message is understanding the purpose. So is this group coming together by grade levels? Is this group coming together by subject level? Or are we coming together based on a focus area? If we're coming together on a focus area, yeah, we might be able to pull teachers from different grades. But if it's on grade levels, that might look different, right? And fourthly, in the where W, does it occur on campus or off campus? For example, is it a community lecture hall, university discussion? What is the location? Because location is important for setting the tone of the experience that we want to create. Professional development is not a lecture. It should be an experience for the educator. Because we expect them, when we provide professional development services or training or programs, we want to emulate what we want to see teachers doing in the classroom. So we want to treat them the very same, right? If you're here with me and you're able to type in the chat box, I want to hear what you think about where we are right now. You can start to just chat it up a little bit, so we can bring this a little bit more interactive as I get to the final W. The fifth W is why. As I said earlier, purpose of everything is one of the key elements. If also as a teacher, I encourage you, let's think about what is your why in the world? Why? What is the purpose? What is your purpose? And even though you're a teacher, that is not who you are. That is a role you play. So it's important for you to understand your why. And just like that, when we come to create professional development experiences, it's a learning experiences that we must understand the why behind it. Why are participants engaged in this particular professional development? How can participants build ownership and trust in the process so everyone knows what they're doing and why they're doing it? Remember, after we put on that great show, if we don't discuss the implementation strategy, the teacher will not understand why, and it will not become relative to him or her in that classroom. Schools with the most successful and engaging professional development for their staff members, they have a reflection process. They have questions throughout the process, and they hold space for a spectrum of learning to emerge. Same within the classroom. We hold space for our students. We create an experience. We have a process and a system based on who's in the classroom that particular year. Because last year, your group was different from the group this year, right? And so we allow an emergence to come alive. It's not, I've created this professional development, here's how I want it to go, and this is how it must go. We allow space for the participants. Those are the 5 whys. But here I got for us some elements of effective professional development. Number 1, it is content focused. What's going to be included? It incorporates active learning utilizing adult learning theory, because the way we learn as adults are different from the way our students learn. And sometimes that varies from person to person as well. It supports collaboration, again, between and amongst the teachers, the creators of the program, the trainers. There must be collaboration. It's embedded, there's a job context embedded in the whole process that we know, like we said, different groups, not bulking everyone together. It uses modules, it uses modules and modeling of effective practice. So you're not just gonna say intentional teaching practice, blah, blah, blah. It must show and demonstrate practical intentional teaching practices or whatever based on that subject matter. It must become applicable to what the teachers do. It provides coaching and expert support. So we're not gonna call a 5th grade teacher who's been a 5th grade teacher for 15 years to train early childhood education teachers. Even though that gap in that window of early childhood education is so long, I think for most countries, it's 0 to 12. We're going to understand that the pre-K specialist is different from the elementary primary school specialist. It offers opportunities for feedback and reflection, must be a part of the process. It is a sustained duration, so it's not, the time frame is not overextended. Teachers are not sitting in a room for 4 hours just listening to lectures. That's why I try to make this training KISS format, keeping it simple, simple, stupid. So, do we have any questions on quality? Questions, comments? I'd like for you to allow yourself the opportunity to put in the chat, or you can also unmute yourself preferably and come on and give us any questions you might have or add to the flavor of what I've just presented to you. Anyone? See names here, Ganesh and Aniket, Dr. Sali, Arim, thank you all for being here. Dimple, Rashmi, Amendra, does anyone have any questions or contributions they want to add? Oh, it's so quiet in here.
Everyone is concentrating, they're more listening.
I know, but I'd love to hear from you. That actually gives me so much. Yes. Well, so if we don't have any questions, and again, if you think of anything, we're definitely in the chat. So again, you can connect with me on my platforms as well, but I prefer for us all to keep the conversation going in a chat so everyone can learn from each other. And that's it for today. Tomorrow, we're going to have a little bit more of a longer session. And I know for you all, it's going to be Saturday afternoon. And as for me, it's pretty early, but we are going to wrap up this module and have some reflective conversation again on the whole idea of creating a good.
We have one question in the chat box.
Let's see, I see that. So I'm going to hit stop share.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rashmi. How important, she asked, is it to emphasize on teaching gratitude as an educator? I love it. I love it, love it, love it. I think that is, like I said earlier, gratitude is something that just changes the landscape of our own personal lives. And I'm like, why not teach it? Like yesterday, with COVID and everything happening, I literally watched my teachers. I closed down classrooms starting last week, and then I've been watching my staff leave or not call out because of COVID. And so I had to step into a classroom for a little while. And so one of the things that I did do with the students was I just spontaneously started doing exercise and yoga with them. They were on the playground, so it's like, let me get a chance to play, right? Because I don't get that opportunity very often, but I take it as much as I can. And so my thing is I bring me into the classroom, and I encourage all teachers to. That's why it's so important to build that growth mindset and be working on yourself. Professional development is grounded in those that come together for the program, but I say for you, go out and get what you need to make you okay. Gratitude, though, is one of the most important things we can teach a child regardless of their age. Because once you understand that life happens, like right now, my operations at school completely shut down today. I got one staff, even I cannot go to school. I'm quarantined right now as of today. And so one staff is on campus. I got really sad, right? Because students are quarantined. I got students with COVID. I got teachers with COVID. And I was feeling it so heavy. I worked really late till last night reporting to the county, the health department, and going through making sure everybody put in timesheets to make sure that they get paid. And I was like so overwhelmed. Even my mom got on the phone with me and she's like, oh my God, you look horrible. What's wrong? But I'm quiet and I'm sad. And I had to sit there and find something to be grateful for. And it was like, okay, this is just horrible. I want to go to bed. I'm cranky. And I literally did my gratitude exercise right there on my couch with my laptop in front of me as I approved the last timesheet. And I was like, everybody got their timesheet done. I had to call staff. I was group talking with them. everybody, I'm grateful that everybody got their timesheet. Everyone's going to get paid. And I'm sitting back there and I'm like, I'm grateful because I feel okay, even though I may have COVID. And I'm going to get through this really quick. And all my staff, even though some of them are forced to quarantine when they don't have to, they're okay. I'm grateful that I made it through this day, and I did get to play with the kids, and I was just struggling. But as I continued to list in my head what I was grateful for, it made it easy for me to shut the laptop screen, go into my bed, and go to sleep within the first 15 minutes. So if we can teach children to acknowledge their challenges, but also know the value that they bring to the classroom. For example, in early education classroom, you have those children 3 to 5 years old, and even some pre-K, depending on how your program's structured. Those children have moments, they have outbursts, and even in elementary and primary school, they do too. If you spend a moment with them talking about how do you feel? Why do you think you hit Johnny or Tommy or whatever? And they get to talking with you. And then you remind them that yes, you made a bad choice hitting him and he's hurt and he's upset with you. But I've seen you sometime before helping Ariel reach the cups, or making sure Ariel got out the classroom. And then, or you checked to make sure all your friends were out of the classroom as we were exiting for the playground. And you remind that child of how good they are. You are actually showing them that you're grateful for their presence. So not only adding up all the good things that are happening, but also looking at the goodness of character and teaching the children that. I believe gratitude should be in our curriculum in the classroom, because I was
Can
great.
I disturb you, ma'am?
Go ahead, Rashmi. I didn't hear you. Let me just get this.
Yeah. Actually, I was just thinking that like the way we teach students to keep on praying every day. It's, you know, whether they understand, they don't understand, we ensure that they join their hands and they are thanking God. So why isn't that we make it a stringent way of like, you know, you're saying it is a continuous process, but why don't we put it in the curriculum as every teacher has to emphasize every day that yes, they have to be thankful and they have to have pay gratitude to everything they get around it. Actually, I read an article recently that the generation who's coming next, they're getting so many leisures we are giving them. Okay, we are not so we, for them at least, we need to teach them what actually gratitude is for that generation. We probably are doing it, but the future needs to take care of what gratitude is. So that is the one thing I thought I'll ask you.
I agree with that. And so being that it takes a minute, and this is why IIU exists, because we want to be the catalyst for, we might not be able to take on the whole system at the same time, just like you as a teacher may not be able to, but you do have control and domain of some sorts in your classroom. So why, when you get them to hold hands to pray and say thanks to God, that's also gratitude. But then you can also do a gratitude exercise at the beginning. I've done it with pre-K students, and it actually was a part of my classroom exercise. And if I'm in charge of a classroom, it will be the same. Funny enough, when the COVID hit 2020, and we were just thrown to work at home, everything shut down here in the USA, again, I still had a team of teachers. I'll tell you what, gratitude exercise is what brought us through, because I did it with the parents, with the teachers, and then I met with the parents, met with the teachers first thing in the morning every day. By then, at the beginning, we didn't even have Zoom to bring our students and decide how we're going to teach class. That was still a thing that I had to develop. But I started off, we were so sad because lots of us were losing loved ones. We were scared if we were going to die. And the only thing I had that I could bring from my own life was like, you know what, guys, I opened up my session with my teachers and I was like, how do you feel? And so when you ask that question and people are being honest, they're going to spill out all kinds of, yucky stuff. And that's okay. How did I take that back as a leader and say, okay, but what do we have? What are you grateful for? And many days it was toilet paper. Many days it was toilet paper, paper towel, bleach. And that no one has COVID in my home. But as we kept saying that, we were able to, like you and I are right now, we can see each other's face, Rashmi, smile, right? And had a positive attitude to call all the parents and give them a lesson plan. So they're supposedly going to teach their child, right? And it was the same when I met with parents, did the same thing. What's going on? How do you feel? And I go, blah, blah, blah. And oh my God, all these kids at home are driving me crazy. I don't know. Thank God you guys, now I know what a teacher goes through. I'm like, good, yay. I was grateful that parents got to see how their kids really act and had to deal with them all day, which was kind of revengeful. But then we go back again. What are you grateful for? You know what? I'm grateful though, because I get to see the older kids help me with the younger ones with their lessons and stuff. So I believe as a teacher, all of us here as educators, we should bring it. And then start to talk to our administrators about what you just said, Rashmi. I would love to hear if you do have that conversation with your co-teachers or your administration. How can we just implement gratitude exercise? I think the best way before you even talk to administration, Rashmi, is for you to do it and show them how it's done.
Yeah, but actually, we have already started doing it in our school. So we have been having, we had our annual session, annual theme as gratitude, where we made children perform also on gratitude. So that slowly and gradually, right from pre-K, we start imbibing this thing in them. So, but then it is some schools, some educators doing it. So I just thought that why not everyone thinks in this direction? So we have been practicing it at our school.
I can see it happening more in India first before many parts of the world, like the UK, because the US, because so much stake. So can you share with us though, what that looks like for you guys? What does your gratitude program look like at your school or in your classroom?
Having like sharing gratitude thoughts through their performances as well. It's not only that, like a person, just a student helping another student who during COVID times was not able to attend classes, all sort of that also is like you're helping. You be thankful. We have seen changes in students being at home during pandemic and a drastic change in the behavior to understand their parents sacrifice. They started caring, loving for parents more because they started spending time at home. So their thought process, especially younger ones, it's easier to deal at times, but the older ones, when you deal with them, when they are in their adolescence age, especially, and they're realizing all these things, it's like that's the change we have brought in our school students. So that's our achievement.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that. And I pray that you become a leader and spokesperson for that context in India and also here at IIU. Maybe you can teach us a few things of how we can help our training programs to implement that gratitude process. That can be an entire whole module, I believe, of the how-to, because that's what we want as educators, is a how-to. Thank you so much for opening up that.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else has any other question, comments, or something they'd like to share, even on the gratitude piece? Ganesh, Shabani? No? So if we don't have any other questions right now, again, like I said, the conversation continues in the group, but I'd love to wrap up today's session and look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Dr. Prashi, are you there with us? Did you have anything else you wanted to share with us?
So any other queries they will be having, they can connect with you on the chat box on WhatsApp, and we'll be catching up once again tomorrow with all of them.
Yes, I will be back for my last session with you all in this round of training, and hopefully for more interaction and discussion, and maybe our other friends who are part of us will be able to join, given that's the weekend. So I look forward to it. I want to say thank you and bless you all. I do say namaste even here in the US because I know what namaste means. So I want to say namaste to everyone and many blessings. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.